Hi folks, how are you? Good to see you. Well, Simon's taken the night off. He's gone to see Josh Groban. He's a big fan of Josh's, so I have no idea who I'm working with tonight.
It always sounds to me with that name as though he's going to eat a meal of Rogan Josh.
Would you please wait for your feed? Oh, look who's walking into the studio. I think all my Christmases have come at once. Hi, Andrew. It's good to see you.
Hello, Phil. Great to see you too, and great to be a part of Nightline for this time, filling in for Rogan Josh, or Simon having some Rogan Josh.
We are the men in red. Look at us tonight.
Oh, we are too. Well, mine's a little more muted, I think, but yours is more showbiz.
It's amazing. Sometimes I wear in quite common clothes, but the cameras pick up the effect, and it looks like silk or something.
It looks very good, but I have a feeling it's probably not.
No, just gardening clothes. But there's going to be a huge night. In the second hour of our show tonight, we honour the diggers by calling Jim Brown, formerly of Healthy Wealthy Wine. He's got a special piece for us, which will be very appropriate for Anzac Day. Patti Newton will be in, as usual, being Monday night. But, of course, your father was involved in the war. And looking at you, I presume we're talking about World War One.
No, not at all.
Oh.
You rotten hound. No, he was... Heaven. No, Zed was involved in... Oh, you love it when you've scored something, don't you? Look at the face on it.
Well, I could have said the Boer War.
Well, yes, you could have.
Oh, how funny.
Yes, I know. You can put that on your best of tape and play it endlessly to poor people who come visit. Pete and Jackie, look out. No, Dad was involved in the Second World War. Yes, he joined up in 40.
Okay.
Off to fight the Hun.
Yes.
In the Middle East, and then of course when Japan entered the war and all the Australian troops were pulled back from the Middle East, not to fight England's war so much as to fight for our very own lives here against the Japanese.
And he was in the army, I presume?
He was in the army, that's right, yes.
What rank did he rise to?
He got to lieutenant.
Okay.
But I think if he hadn't got a little sloshed one night on leave, he might have made captain, but I think he sort of blotted his copybook down. I shouldn't speak.
And he came back unscathed?
No, he in Crete, because the Crete campaign for the Allies was an absolute disaster. With the Nazis well in command, they were in full retreat, and Dad was hit by shrapnel and sustained an ankle injury, which he was continued in the army right through to the end of the war. Yeah. He was in a hospital in Egypt for a while, but it came back to plague him later in life, and he would hobble. Some days he would absolutely strap up his foot.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I had an uncle who served in the Middle East and also in the tropics, and came back with malaria, which kept recurring through the years.
That's exactly what Dad had too.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, and he would come back and he'd have these very weak days. So it wasn't on... I'm not saying he was disabled by these things, but certainly he didn't come out completely unaffected.
And did he survive the war for many years?
Oh, yes. Dad lived until... until the 1980s.
Oh, well, you were very blessed.
Yeah.
Now, being Anzac Day, I've got a piece that was sent to me a year ago by Ian Schrader, and it's absolutely fascinating. Of course, the last post is synonymous with Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, and I think we take it for granted. But do you know the origins of the last post? It all began in 1862 during the American Civil War, when Union Army Captain Robert Ellicott was with his men near Harrison's Landing in Virginia. The Confederate Army was on the other side of the narrow strip of land. During the night, Captain Ellicott heard the moans of a soldier who lay severely wounded on the field. Not knowing if it was a Union or Confederate soldier, the captain decided to risk his life and bring the stricken man back for medical attention. Crawling on his stomach through the gunfire, the captain reached the stricken soldier and began pulling him towards his encampment. When the captain finally reached his own lines, he discovered it was actually a Confederate soldier, but the soldier was dead. The captain lit a lantern and suddenly caught his breath and went numb with shock. In the dim light, he saw the face of a soldier. It was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out, and without telling his father, the boy enlisted in the Confederate Army. The following morning, heartbroken, The father asked permission of his superiors to give his son a full military burial despite his enemy status. His request was only partially granted. The captain had asked if he could have a group of army band members play a funeral dirge for his son at the funeral. The request was turned down since the soldier was a Confederate. Out of respect for the father, they did say they could give him only one musician. The captain chose a bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes he had found on a piece of paper which was in the pocket of the dead youth's uniform, his son. This wish was granted. The haunting melody we now know as the last post used at military funerals was born that day. The words are, "Day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and a star gems the sky. Gleaming bright from afar, drawing nigh, falls the night. Thanks and praise for our days, neath the sun, neath the stars, neath the sky as we go. This we know, God is nigh."
Lest we forget.
I didn't know anything of that story at all, and I think I would speak, Phil, for most of the listeners right now.
It would make a wonderful movie.
It's a wonderful story. It is. There's a cinema plot in it, isn't it?
You just take the last post for granted. You think it's always been there.
Yes, I didn't know it had those American origins.
So that's the history of the last post. And we'll talk more about Anzac Day during the night. But Andy, we'll take a break now because it's almost Patti time. God is good to me. I'm surrounded by three of my very favourite people in the world, and I'm getting paid for it. Hi, Patti.
Hello, how are you? Hello, Andrew.
Hello,
nice
Patti.
to see you.
Yeah, I haven't seen you for months. And I should mention, in case it's not mentioned, that Patti arrives bearing gifts, Phil, and that's just a lovely little touch.
I know, she does.
No, I'm one of those old ladies that's always got a lolly in my bag.
And some weeks she spends more money than other weeks. Like recently I got a jar of scorched almonds.
Yeah,
they were
did you
lovely.
like? No, they were
So now you're complaining. that there's not-
chocolate-coated sultanas.
I know, they're very healthy, just what I needed.
Yeah,
Because
a
you know
little
what
bit of healthy.
my problem is.
I know.
When I say
Not
three
so
of my
good.
favourite people, Ken's here tonight too. Because as you might know, Simon's gone to see Josh Groban. He's
Yes.
a big fan.
And I said, who's Josh Grove?
Oh, no, he's a very good singer.
Is he?
Actually, this is funny. We were talking about it earlier. Simon loves him because of one song, "I'll Be Home for Christmas," which Bing Crosby sang originally.
Yeah.
But Josh Groban has done it with a choir, and that's the song he loves. But I said to Andrew, the chances of him singing that on Anzac Day
Exactly.
are very remote.
Very remote.
8
but
months
never
out.
mind. If
I
he
don't think
likes
it'll
it,
happen.
that's all that matters.
But he doesn't like his new album, so that's a problem. So, you know,
It's a
but
bit of a problem.
he deserves a night out.
There is so much happening in Melbourne at the moment, isn't there?
Yes.
I mean, we're about to come into... I mean, I feel really privileged. I was asked to go to the opera on Tuesday night, next Tuesday.
Lame, yes.
Yes.
Red tie, yes.
And
well, black tie, probably. Red carpet.
I haven't been to, since Bert was on GMA, I used to go a lot then, because
Will you and Bert go?
occasionally get tickets.
Will you be there?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we're going to go.
That's Musetta's waltz, isn't it?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, it's Puccini.
I just like it.
Your tiny hand is frozen, Andrew, and all that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Beautiful music.
I'm not a, I don't know a lot about it, but what I hear I like, and I think if you go along and enjoy.
It's red carpet and drinks and everything.
Yes.
It's going to be fantastic.
And then it's, I think we've got Logies at the week at
That's
the
right.
following
And you and
weekend.
Bert will be there, of course.
Well, I'm not sure whether Bert will be there. Lauren and I will probably be there.
All right.
And then
What's
after
your
that,
tip for the gold Logie? Do you have a tip for us?
It's a funny gold Logie this year, isn't it?
I
It's
want to know.
really
I'm sorry, Patti.
strange.
I'm just getting a little jaded about gold. I think Logies were all fine 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago when you were on TV and all, but how many people vote for them? I know they vote via email now.
I know, but that's the problem, because only the young vote on email.
Thank you.
And so the people of our age group that, watch a lot of telly, they don't really get a Guernsey because they don't know how to do it.
No,
That's been my thinking.
Yeah, but anyway, look, I don't know. I think probably Carrie Bickmore is a good...
All right.
The others I'm not that sure of. I love Scotty Cam.
Yes.
He'd be great. But, I think, I was saying to Philip the other week that I think they've made it very politically correct. Because if you think, there's all nationalities in there. There's old, there's young, there's female, there's tall, short.
Indigenous and all that.
And several networks involved,
Exactly.
spreading it around.
So, it's sort of a little bit of a potpourri or whatever you call it.
Yeah, well, we'll cover it on Remember When, as we always do. Now, Chris is in Langwarren. Hi, Chris.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Hello, Chris.
Hello. You looking well again?
Look, I'm not bad for an old chick, I suppose,
Phil, I've got to take your task a little bit in regards to your intro about the last post.
Yes.
What those words were and what that tune is the American equivalent, which is called taps.
Yeah.
I've just forgotten the origin of the last post, but the other one was definitely taps, which is the American version of the last post.
Okay, well, this has been sent to me in good faith, and I told you Ian Schrader sent it to me, and the piece is titled The Origin of the Last Post, not taps.
No, well, obviously read different books than I have, but I'm not having a shot at you whatsoever. I've been listening for 20-odd years. I think it's been the third time I've rung up.
Oh, good. Always good to hear from you. All right, well, I take your point, but I can only read this in good faith,
Oh, not a problem. I'll get time tomorrow. I'll sit down and see if I can trace it, the origin of the last post.
Yes, that'll be very interesting, and then maybe send it to me, and then everybody gets equal time. Thanks for that,
Right,
Chris.
have a good night, you two.
Okay, that's great.
It's such a moving thing, the last post, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Listening to it this morning and watching it on telly, you can't help but get moved. It's, and you don't want to speak because it's, whether you've seen it 3 times in the one day, every time it comes on you think, reverently you have to not speak and
Of course,
be
it's
silent.
real lump in your throat stuff.
It is, it is.
Have you been to the dawn service at the shrine?
I haven't, but actually Denise Drysdale and I were going to march today because we went to Vietnam and we were asked because they sort of started the parade, the Vietnam vets, and we were, because we've got a medal and all sorts of things, we were allowed to march with them. So we were thinking of it, and then Denise changed her mind, and we're going to do it in August when it's the actual anniversary of what is it? Long Tan.
Yes.
So
What year were you there, Patti?
I was trying to think. I think 65.
Oh, as early as that.
What was when did the war begin?
When did the war in Vietnam begin?
Yeah.
Around 63, 64, I think.
Yeah, no, I think I went 65. It might have been 60. 67.
And how sad
No,
that-
67, I
How
think.
sad that Doug Owen died recently, who went with you,
Yes, well,
the folk singer.
I was going to ask you about that
Yeah.
because it was, I mean, at the time we were young and we thought it was the best thing we'd ever done because it was fabulous.
An
It was
adventure.
great response, and we were
Yeah.
I'd never been overseas before, so this was a foreign country, and we went with the army, so we'd have to wear jungle greens and heavy boots, and we travelled in caraboos and in those helicopters with the two propellers, you know, one either
like
end.
Black Hawks.
And the two gunners either side of us. So Denise and I'd sit up front, the strangers would be, and the guys would be in the back. And as we were going along very low, the gunners would be going as we ran along. You know, I mean,
You're right in the
if
thick of
I'd
it.
have been my mum, I wouldn't have let me go.
No.
So were you in danger at all?
We were. Well, when we were there, we were heading to Da Nang, which was very much front line. And we were heading off there one day, and they changed the route and said, no, we can't go there. It's too dangerous. And a girl called Kathy Wayne was there at the same time as us, and she was working in an American camp in Da Nang, and there was a guy there that was shell-shocked, and he got a gun and shot her. And my mum was listening in her kitchen on her little Mickey Mouse, you know, those little tiny radios that used to sit on top of the
They
fridge.
were Bakelite, yes.
Yeah, and they said an Australian girl that's done a lot of television has just been killed in Vietnam. Well, my mum dropped the cup and saucer
Oh, of
because
course.
she thought it would be me.
Oh, yeah. You're
but
an
it
only
was,
child, aren't you?
By the way, it
It
wasn't a Mickey Mouse, it was called a Mickey Mantle.
Was it?
No,
I
made-
thought, my dad always called it a
They
Mickey
were made
Mouse.
by Astor, yeah.
That's right, it was. And so, you know, I think we were a little bit nervous, and we realised that, you know, as much fun as we were having, we were in a war zone.
Can I ask you, what was your act at the time? Do you remember what songs you did or what you performed? Did you
did.
dance and sing or just sing?
Yes, I danced and sang. We had a little group. We had the Strangers,
Yeah.
John Farrar.
John Farrar and the Strangers, and they
They were
were
a top group.
Oh, top group, and great friends of ours, and we've stayed friends all these years. Denise Drysdale, and she, you know, she did go-go's, and she had, you know, like the big boobs, and she was very
Probably did a Chook impressions. Or,
well, she did a lot of, not really in those days, but a little bit of comedy. I remember I did Shirley Temple. I did Fringe Skirt, and, you know, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and we did all sorts of, you know, dancing.
I wish there was
and-
vision of it. Wouldn't it be lovely to have it?
was Pat Carroll with you?
No, she wasn't. Pat and Olivia did it not for the army, but for, you know, agents that sent them there.
Okay.
And she went with Olivia Newton-John.
And did you go back a second time?
We did, a long time after.
Yeah.
But this first time, and Doug Owen was the compere, and he was a folk singer.
I remember him.
And we had a little act. We had a show. We'd all start off with a Beatles song, and of course all the boys. We used to do a lot at Nui Dat, and that was where most of the Australians were.
That was on the coast, wasn't it?
I forget. You know, what was that movie where it was the China
Apocalypse
Bay, or
Now?
you know, the beautiful beach that was there, and we went there one day.
Yeah. Was
and
there a movie called Platoon?
I can't remember.
Good Morning Vietnam.
No, I remember that one too.
There were so many.
But we were there on the beach and having a beautiful time with the beautiful sand and beach and sun, and in the background you could see the bombs going up and down, and artillery and planes and all this
And
heavy
napalm
stuff.
too, I guess. Yeah.
So, you know, it was very growing up for us. We decided that as much as we were having a good time, I've just got to tell you this quick story. I know you want to go for a break.
That's all right.
But we had a show in Nui Dat, and the boys gave us they were very desperate to see women, because, and, you know, just to chat and, you know, just to touch a home. And Graham had made me the spokesperson for these boys. And they used to give me lots of letters, and when I came back, I went on IMT and I talked to the mums and tell them about their boys and all that. But this day we had a barbecue, and after the barbecue, they these three very handsome, gorgeous young men said, "Look, we've got a mission that we're doing. We've just got to go out, but we want to come back and say hello after the second show. We'll be here for the second show if we can, but we'll see you afterwards." And we went, yeah. So we did the show, and then afterwards we got a message to say that when they went out, they'd hit a landmine and they were in hospital, very badly injured. But they were asking for Denise and I. So we went to where they were and held their hands, and one of them didn't make it. I'm not sure about the other two, but they were in a very bad way. And we realised at that moment that, you know, as much fun as we were having and the boys were having, this was a war zone. And you don't realise that when it's just fun and laughter.
Oh, they could have been Viet Cong in the palm trees or anything.
Well, no, it was a mine they drove over.
Yeah, but I mean, when you were
absolutely.
performing. Yeah.
Well, we went back a second time, a long time after, because the curfew had gone, the camouflage had gone, and it was... We took a little group over. We went for Women's Weekly, and it was very different, but we went down the tunnels where the Viet Cong were.
You can do that today as a tourist. And so by the time you went back, was the war over, Patti?
The war was over.
Okay.
And I must say that going down those tunnels made me claustrophobic, and I've been claustrophobic ever since. It was very scary.
But in fairness, you know, Vietnam is a wonderful tourist destination.
Have you been there, Phil?
Twice. I love it, Patti.
I love it too.
And the people are so gentle and so
And you know,
caring.
we went back to one of the little shops where a very old Vietnam couple had been for all of their life, and they'd lived in the shop, and we remembered seeing them when we went there the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
So
heavens.
wonderful.
It was fabulous.
Patti's memories of Vietnam.
In just
22 to 11, this is Nightline 3AW. Andrew McLaren filling in for the Rogan Josh loving Simon Owens, who will be back, of course.
To 11. And Andrew, I think you'll echo my sentiments. The memorial for Bruce on Friday was just so moving and so overwhelming, and a very large part of the success of the afternoon, which would have been a great comfort to Jill Mansfield and the family, was the fact that you and Bert so graciously appeared. And the singing of One Day at a Time, accompanied by Helen Jowsey, was just something that we will never forget.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Phil. I think it's, I don't know, but how do you feel? I mean, it's very hard to think that it's a week. It feels like a very long time because so much has happened in that week.
Yeah.
And I just can't really believe that he's gone. It's one of those things that you know how he used to doodle when you sit there,
Of course.
and he'd be doodling all the time. I mean, all those little things that you keep thinking about and think we won't see that again, and it's really sad.
First thing I notice when I drive in is this car in the car park, which was there 6 nights a week for 26 years.
I know. Well, do you know, I told you last week that Jill said the one thing that he was very disappointed about was that the swimming was on and Downton Abbey had to go back a week, and he wanted to watch the final episode of Downton Abbey, and he was really cranky that he couldn't get to see Downton Abbey.
Could have got him a dub if he'd asked.
I know. So Bert and I watched. I taped it, and we watched the last 2 episodes of Downton Abbey, and for the whole time we kept saying, "Oh, Bruce would have loved that bit. Oh,
no,
Bruce
yes,
would
for
have
sure.
loved that," you know. And you sort of think all those things, they're just little things, but they keep coming back to you. And
Might I say, Patti, that Bert did his usual excellent job of hosting that afternoon at the Athenaeum Theatre. He just does it with such the right touch. Not too
always
frivolous,
get a
but at the
bit
same time
worried.
funny.
Well,
and warm.
well, actually, Dennis hosted it. Bert just did the eulogy, but I always worry because I think, you know, I don't know if you call it a eulogy, do you, at a memorial?
Perhaps a homily.
But it was one of those things where I kept thinking, I hope he's going to mention that, and or I hope he knows about that, and I worry for him, but I shouldn't, because he's very good at that.
Well, you know, he is the master of eulogies. I've been to several funerals where he's spoken, and I get the feeling, I could be wrong, I get the feeling Bert doesn't need to prepare for a eulogy. I get the feeling that instead of pacing up and down and making notes in his mind, I think it just flows on the day.
That is true.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bit like the Logies. When he was doing the Logies, he couldn't prepare too much because he likes that adrenaline that goes through you that makes you have to be on your toes and think on your feet, and I think that's how it is. And he knew Bruce pretty well, so it wasn't something that he needed to prepare too much for.
I must share something with you, which is rather personal, but it's only been a week, and in a week I've had more than 500 cards, SMSs, emails and phone calls to my home, more than 500. It's been so overpowering emotionally that I actually sought counselling from someone here at 3AW over the weekend to cope with it all.
Well,
I can understand that.
Yeah, I can understand
being
that
on the air, the pressure being on the air every night. I've been greeting everybody on Friday because everybody in the audience knew Bruce and Phil.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to share my time with everybody there if I could, you know.
But, you know, we all knew he was ill, but when you hear that news, you still get shocked, don't you?
More so, Andrew and Patti, because I'd seen Bruce a week before, and I'm sure I reassured you. I said he's looking terrific.
Yeah.
He's pain-free, he's lost his hair, he's lost weight, but he was full of beans and didn't complain, never complained at all about his illness, and it must have been so frustrating for him, being off the air.
Well, I think the only good thing about it is, you know, that he was in no pain and he didn't suffer.
That's right, yes.
But he would have suffered mentally because he used to, when you'd go down, when you'd leave the studio for your coffee or whatever you went to have, you have your little puffy, I'd sit and have a chat, and we'd always talk about Jill and the family and the grandkids or any issues we were having, or, you know, and I felt I got to know him very well in that 10 minutes. Yeah, 5-10 minutes.
Yes.
And it's, you know, I don't know, just hard to think that that's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
So I do understand
and
how
also,
you feel.
Andrew, such a strong personality, wasn't he?
Oh, yes.
You would have thought, oh, that man's indestructible, you know.
Yeah, that was part of it. It just seems like he's always been a presence, you know.
Do you know, Phil, and Andrew, I was absolutely shocked because, you know, you think you know someone, but you don't really. I didn't realise he was such a religious person.
Oh, yes.
Very.
Very devout, absolutely.
Yeah.
As I said to Neil Mitchell, fiercely moral and loyal are two qualities which endeared himself to me.
And very, I don't mean, what's the word when you're trying to say someone's prim, but he's not prim. But
no, he wasn't a wowser.
Like Bert was saying, he's never actually heard him swear.
No,
you know?
I never heard Bruce swear ever.
Not a man that really talked ill of people or swore or said any, you know, sort of dirty jokes or not that sort of man at all.
No, he abhorred that sort of thing.
Yeah, he did. He was a very loyal, lovely man.
I guess we'll be talking about him for years to come, hopefully. Ashley Argoon is at the Herald Sun. Let's look at page one together, please. Ashley?
Tomorrow, gents, we have 70,000 dole recipients that are using a medical loophole to claim drug and alcohol abuse to stop themselves from getting a job. In parts of Australia, there's more than 50% of people on the dole that are using GP sick notes to claim they're too sick for work. Also tomorrow we've got a saga with the Peter Brock telly movie that's meant to be going on air at the end of the year. Network 10's actually producing that telly movie about the racing legend, but it's in a fight with Channel 7 for racing vision of the Bathurst 1000. So Channel 7 had exclusive rights to that vision where Peter Brock won 9 of his races, I think it was. So they can't use the footage in their telly movie, which is going to cause a bit of a problem for them. And otherwise, we've got a really nice story about a youngster in Melbourne, Jade Hameister. She's now the youngest person in history to ski to the North Pole. She's a 14-year-old from Melbourne. She's just achieved the feat on Sunday. So she's done 150 kilometres across country skis to the North Pole, and she's actually in a really nice twist. She's taken an Anzac badge all the way through with her, and she's left the badge up at the North Pole as a sign of respect for the Anzacs.
I think I'll wait for the movie. Actually, sure to be one. You think?
And negative 25-degree temperatures and eating dehydrated meat. So
Of course.
She's done us all proud, I
Yes,
think.
she has. Now, you've got, speaking of that, you've got the taste supplement tomorrow, haven't you?
Yes, we do.
The taste lift out? What is it? Recipes? Whatever.
I actually haven't flicked through the taste yet.
That's all right.
I haven't managed to get a copy of it.
We'll be surprised in the morning. And thanks for those headlines, Ashley.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan.
And we'll buy the paper Herald on first thing tomorrow.
Yes, I'm waiting. I've waited week after week, year after year for the taste supplement to feature the recipe for steamed canary pudding with custard sauce, as I used to have it at the Blue Lagoon Guest House on Lord Howe Island. It's yet to appear. It was something I still wake up in the night thinking about.
Canary pudding.
Steamed canary pudding.
Okay.
Is that like sticky date or?
No, it's fluffier. It's actually magnificent.
Sounds beautiful.
Great wedge of it with drowned in custard. 8 to 11, it is 3AW Nightline. The lovely Patti is with us. And Patti, 60 Minutes.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have seen 60 Minutes because you were working. But it was interesting getting onto the group that were jailed, Tara and all the gang.
Did they cover that on 60
Well,
Minutes?
yes, they did. They had a little interview with her. But I have to ask you a question, because I don't know whether I've missed it, but why, Sally Faulkner, the mum with the children,
yes.
She went across to get the children.
That's right.
Why were the children there in the first place if she had custody?
Maybe he had certain rights. I'm not sure what the answer is, but
if he had certain rights, well then she must have allowed them to go overseas
for a holiday.
But then
yes.
why couldn't she bring them back?
well, I think he'd refused to return them. I think that was the issue.
Surely that would be he would be breaching laws.
Yeah, and he raised a good point. I'm not sure,
because if she had custody, the children should be in her
Yes,
care.
but probably not breaching laws in his own country, you see.
So once they go to his country, then that's a different situation.
I imagine, yes, different laws might
Really?
exist.
Wow. Well, anyone that's got custody of children, they wouldn't be allowing their kids to go in.
That's
it's a bit
true.
like that. Do you remember Jacqueline Gillespie?
Oh, yes, that was with the Malaysian or
prince.
Indonesian prince. Yeah,
That's right. And
She married him
the
and-
same thing happened.
Yeah.
She went over there with the children, and all of a sudden she couldn't bring them back. And he kept them. And they lived with him for all of their growing up life. And then when they got to an age where they could make a decision, I think, I'm not an expert on it, but I think they came back to Australia, and now I think they're living here.
I met her. I met her in the Riversdale Road post office a few years ago. Lovely.
Yeah, no, she
lovely
used to.
lady.
She was.
2 to 11. Patty,
Yes,
what is this big show? You and Bert, you just do not quit, do you?
Oh well, look, it's a big show. We're not the big part of it. It's called Follies, and we have a little rehearsal for the first time on next Monday. So I'll tell you all about it next Monday night. But it's a huge cast. Follows. It's at the what's that place called? The Melbourne Recital Centre.
Yeah, down near the ABC near South
Yeah,
Bank.
I've never been there, but I believe it's a beautiful theatre.
Yes, it is.
And the cast, it's a cast of thousands, Andrew.
Who's in it?
There's Lisa McCune, Nancy Hayes, Deborah Byrne,
Wow.
Peter, Philip Quast. Do you know
Yeah,
Philip? Oh, he's a gorgeous actor. Beautiful man. Also David Hobson.
Oh, very
And-
tall David Hobson.
Yes, Robert Grubb. And Anne Wood. I've
And
probably
who's
left
got
a
that
couple people.
showstopper like I'm Still Here, whatever the song's
I
called?
think that might be Anne Wood, but Broadway Baby, that's Nancy
It's
Hayes.
Stephen Sondheim's wonderful score.
God, fabulous.
Oh, it's very hard music.
The dates again?
The
please?
dates are the 24th and the 25th of May. There are 3 shows. It's a concert version, so, you know, come along. I'd love
Patti,
to see
like you said on Friday, we'll take it one day at a time. Good night,
Certainly
babe.
will. Bye. Bye, Andrew.
Yes, and at 11:06, Andrew McLaren filling in for Simon Owens on Nightline tonight, along with Phil Brady, and it's 2 of the Bureau and Peter Newham. Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, guys.
Peter, an absolutely delightful Melbourne autumn day today, you'd have to say.
Yeah, it got to 25 degrees and obviously very sunny, so real pleasant day.
Are we having an unusually warm April so far? Have you done any stats on that at the Bureau?
We will start to crunch those numbers now. We're getting towards the end of the month, but we've definitely had quite a lot of above-average days. So, and with a few more to come over the next sort of 4 or 5 days, it's likely that it will end up a fair bit above average.
Now, this is the wisdom of McLaren only, and there's absolutely no sort of scientific basis for it, but I find from memories of warmer autumns in the past in Melbourne, I find suddenly winter becomes quite bitter very suddenly. Around about late. Yes, it's so true. And it's quite a jolt when you get those sort of tops of 9 and 10 degrees, you know, even in late May. And now, what have we got coming up with more immediate note, Peter?
Yeah, so tonight we'll have a minimum of about 13 degrees in the city and a maximum of 25 tomorrow, so pretty much a replica of today. Just those moderate northerly winds and sunny skies. Wednesday will be pretty similar as well, perhaps a little bit more cloud around, stronger northerlies and 25 again. And Thursday, partly cloudy with those northerlies persisting in 26. There is a slight chance for a shower around late Thursday, but it should be generally dry. And then a front looks like moving across the state on Friday, bringing showers to the Melbourne area, maximum of 23. A shower or 2 on Saturday, 22, and
Will they be
shower again Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Will they be decent falls though, or not really?
On the Friday, there could be it could be a decent band of showers. At this stage, we're forecasting somewhere between 1 and 10 millimetres across the Melbourne area. As we get a bit closer, we'll be able to pin that down a bit more. But yeah, Friday's looking like probably the most showery day. But Saturday and Sunday, there could be quite a few showers drifting through as well.
Because I think we're a little light on the April monthly average as far as rain goes in Melbourne, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we had that rain, was it last week, and that sort of dropped 10 to 20 millimetres. But yeah, other than that, there's been very little for the month. So
It's been very dry.
Yeah,
All right, not too bad at all. Thank you so much, Peter.
No problem.
Okay, good night, Pete. Say hello to our country cousins, please, Andrew.
Yes, 3AW Wangarattans, very good evening to you. 1566 3AW and 2QN Deniliquin, lovely Deniliquin, 1521 on your dial.
And now your calls are more than welcome. You'd like to talk to Andrew McLaren, 96900 693. Anything you've got on your mind? We have the prizes, we have the time. But meanwhile, normally on Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, we have a quick word with our very good mate Jim Brown, formerly of Healthy, Wealthy and Wise, you'll recall.
No, I do.
But also very much involved with the Anzac spirit. Good evening, Jim.
Hello, Philip, and hello, Andrew, and good evening to you both, and good evening to everyone listening.
Nice to have you along, Jim.
Wasn't so long ago we had you in the studio, and you did a piece for us which I've really asked you to repeat tonight about the Avenue of Honour. How did you come to write this, Jim?
Well, it was, I guess it starts at my life-changing moment when I was working for Channel 10, and in 1990, I went to Gallipoli to cover the 75th anniversary at the time, and it just changed my life. And ever since then, I've been passionately interested in the Anzac stories, and I've been performing a concert recently with a friend of mine, Vince Brophy, and we've had sellout concerts, and the joy is that anyone, once you get a taste of this, you get involved in it. And what motivated me to do a particular poem was that on my bucket list I want to go to Villers-Bretonneux in France, because it is a place where anyone who's been there, and I'm sure some of your listeners who have been there will confirm it, it is a place that just really has a commitment and a very fond memory of the Anzacs who went there over 100 years ago to set their country free.
Now, Jim, I'm right in saying, aren't I, that in the schoolrooms of Villa Britain, they have above the doorways, always be thankful for Australians and New Zealanders. Words to that effect, am I right?
Oh, yes, I think the exact words, I can't remember them in French, but in English, the version of it is, we will never forget the Australians.
That's it, yes, it's rather wonderful, isn't it?
And I think the Australian flag flies every Monday morning as well. Jim, we'd love to hear this piece. Please share it with us.
Okay, just a little bit in that spirit. The reason why the French are so dedicated to the Anzacs is that we were the last to come home. We're the furthest to go to war in the Northern Hemisphere, and it took us longer to get home. Some of the boys didn't get back till 1920. And so they had time on their hands in France waiting for a ship to take them home. And to their credit, they stood shoulder by shoulder with the French and helped them rebuild their shattered villages, and that's why they're so grateful. What struck me, having heard stories from friends of mine, including Vince Brady, who's just come back from there, is that we have our avenues of honour to remember our Anzacs, and they're all over Australia, and they vary from place to place. But at the French, they have the wild poppies, which every spring when the wild poppies come out, the French remember the Anzacs. And it was in that spirit that I wrote this poem. It's called The Avenues of Honour. An avenue of honour runs close to our town, the trees lined up like diggers who laid their lives down on French soil. Will the people there forget them? There's no chance, as long as poppies dance in fields of France. And the French translation of that is aussi longtemps que les pavots dansant dans les champs de France. On our avenues of honour, one day the trees must die, like Anzacs lost in battle neath French and Belgian skies. But the memory of our Anzacs lives on in a springtime trance, as long as poppies dance in fields of France. The endless rows of crosses are tended with great care by people who remember all the Anzacs who lie there. And here at home, each Anzac Day, in sadness, but with pride, we vow we won't forget that for the land they loved, they died. How often have we travelled through trees on either side, and we will never know how many grieving mothers died. But so our avenues of honour are worth much more than just a glance, as long as poppies dance in fields of France. Aussi longtemps que les pavots dansant dans les champs de France. That's it, fellas.
Excellent. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim, that was the icing on the cake. Thank you so much. I know it's been a long day. Jim's attended many Anzac ceremonies from dawn this morning and waited up specially to share that with us tonight.
Thank you very much for doing that. At 11:14 on Nightline. Now, I'm sorry, I've got a touch of the Hinches, a touch of the Mitchells and the Elliots tonight. And it's about Aussie rules, our game, all right?
All right.
Now, I'd love to get some calls on this, Phil, if that's okay by you. You seem to have lost interest already. You're back at your phone.
Tell me. Tell me. Yes. Sorry.
I'm sorry if I'm boring you.
No, sorry.
I'd only just started.
No, it's an SMS from Stephen Beers. But go ahead.
What's he say? Is it all right? Stevie?
He likes...
Anyway,
he said he likes your work.
Oh, thank you. Phil, we have an American football player playing Aussie rules for Collingwood.
Yeah.
He played his first game today.
That's right.
Which is wonderful. And as someone who knows the history, there's a bit of a historian of our great game, has there been another American or another person, say, from France or, I don't know, Belgium or Czechoslovakia, someone who was born and raised there? I don't mean was just born there and came here as a baby, but someone who's come out as a young man and played Aussie rules that you know of in the history of the game. I can't think of anyone else.
Very good question.
I know there's a couple of players who have been born in New Zealand and as young children have come to Australia and gone on to play AFL. But if anyone can, and also, do people agree with me? Please give us a call. I can't see what this giant push of Gil McLachlan and all of the Commission have on at the moment to try and make AFL international. This Chinese exhibition they're going on with, the exhibition games they're going with. Why? I mean, I understand, yes, to expand it and to make money and all the rest of it, and for the great and the good and all the rest. But I just don't think it's going to work. I'm very cynical about it. Can you, Phil, see that, Collingwood playing in Beijing on a regular basis in the next 10 years?
It's hard enough to make the game national in the first place.
Yes, I mean, we still haven't conquered Queensland or New South Wales.
This is very embarrassing for me. Andrew does too much preparation. Special messages this past week so far. Andrew was one from Stan, who's at Cameo Memorial. Stan Harris and Paula extended their sympathy to all of us.
Yeah,
and,
they're nice people.
Among the 500 people who've been in touch with me personally so far, and we do appreciate it. They're very compassionate people. Folks, when you...
All right, it's 11:20. It is Nightline, and to calls, I think we have not spoken to people in some time. Chris is at Broadmeadows. Hello, Chris.
Hello, fellas.
Yes, Chris.
We at Tigerling are having our fair share of troubles, a lot of injuries, our coaches under fire. But Collingwood are in a very dangerous situation because their VFL side of Victoria Park yesterday got smashed by 80-something points by Essendon. And Travis Cloak got the first 2 goals, but only got 2 more kicks for the whole game, so his heart's not in it. So I was saying to my sister Ricky today, who's an avid Collingwood supporter, she sees the 2 corresponding games against Brisbane Lions and Gold Coast up in Queensland, where she lives in Beenleigh. She sees those games every year, and I said to her, well, who's going to go first? Is it Eddie Maguire, is it Nathan Buckley, or Travis Cloak?
Well, yes, if they don't do well again this year, you wonder how what head will roll at Collingwood, don't you?
Yeah, and it's sad because, look, it's funny enough, that was a poor crowd for an Anzac Day clash of 85,000 because, there's 80,000 Collingwood support members alone, let alone any Essendon members.
Yes, I know that,
and
but
they should have packed it out.
Essendon is a bit of a sad and sorry case at the moment. I wonder if that might have had something to do with it.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. And I've turned off a bit from footy in a way. And may I finish by saying I'm not happy with my friend that I used to communicate with on the phone quite often, Daniel Connors, taking a sledge at his former coach, Damien Hardwick, because Daniel Connors was moved on from the Richmond Footy Club because of his alcohol issues, and I expect bigger things of Daniel Connors. I'd like to see him get back into AFL football because he's a very talented footballer, and I just miss him greatly. I used to love talking to him on the phone, and when he was at the Richmond Footy Club. And look, the Tigers needed a bit of a pump too. Look, I don't think necessarily getting rid of the coach is the way out. I think we just probably wait to the Dreamtime game against Essendon, and hopefully Yusuf Islam, formerly known as Cat Stevens, can pump up the Tigers if he makes a return and sing some of those old classics he used to sing because he's from 30 years ago.
Okay, and I must explain the views expressed for those of Chris of Broadmeadows, not necessarily those of Andrew and Phil or the station.
No. But in the meantime, we've got Don and Wanturna. Hello, Don.
Yes, Don, speak to us. Hello? No, I can't hear you. We'll come back to you in a moment. Meantime, here's a favourite of ours, Sahara in New South Wales. Hello, Sahara.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Hello, Sahara, just a matter of interest, what station are you listening to us through?
On your station.
No, but what, through a computer, through streaming?
Oh, yeah, it's a connection my friend gave me with 3AW.
Oh, you got an app?
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting to know because this program doesn't, normally transmit to New South Wales.
Unless we shout loud enough. Sahara, what's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I just want to say about the Anzac March that, that's good for the spirit of the Anzacs and that, and about Bruce, that I've heard you pass that over.
Yes, that's true.
And I've got a song if you wanted to hear it.
I think that'd be very appropriate. What is the song?
I'd like to hear, I thought maybe just what heaven means to me. It might be nice for Bruce.
Yes, in his memory. Let's hear it, and Ken will mix the song.
And for the Anzac spirit.
From the booth. Yes, thank you.
A country where no twilight shadows deepen, an Indian day where night will never be. what heaven means to me. What will it be when we get over yonder and join the throng around the glassy join the lost ones and crown Christ forever. Oh, and this is just what heaven means to me.
Well, there you are. Thanks, Shaz. Her heart's in the right place.
Very touching.
Have
Really.
you know the story of Florence Jenkins? There's a movie starring Meryl Streep about to hit the screens.
That's right. I think a rather wealthy American lady who hired concert halls, including, I think, Carnegie Hall,
Yes.
to give recitals in, and she wasn't that good.
That's right. So we believe.
Yes. Funny you should bring her name up just after we've heard Zahara. Purely coincidental. Don at Wanturna. Hello, Don.
Hello, Andrew. You were mentioning this young man who played for Collingwood today.
Yes, made his
Good-eyed
debut.
player.
Yeah.
Well, I was just reminded of Mike Pike, who the Swans recruited from Canada and who was a premiership player.
Oh,
Who
yes.
retired at the end of last year. He was
Yes.
a basketball player over there.
That's. Thank you very much.
Then there was Jim Steins from Ireland.
From Ireland, yes, of course. Now, what was the Canadians' player's name again?
Mike Pike.
Mike Pike. That's right. He's finished playing now, hasn't he?
He retired at the end of last
Yeah,
year.
that's right. Yeah.
And there was another chap who I'm ashamed to say, I can't remember his name because I'm a Swan supporter, but he was another Irishman who played a number of seasons, who was also a premiership player in the last decade.
And he played for the
There
Swans.
was a chap that Carlton brought out. It wasn't a great success. His name was O'Halpin.
Okay.
Oh, help.
All right. Well, there's three to.
Thank you very much.
To prove the point. Thanks, Don.
Yeah, nice
Okay.
thank you for that. And if anyone else knows, 96900 693.
And Don, he's still there. Don, you wait on for me. At a
Yes.
price right. I'd like you to accept, thanks for the information, a $50 pancake parlour voucher.
Oh, that's very
Open
good.
24 hours a day at High Point, Doncaster, Malvern East. It's lovely. Don, enjoy a night out on us at the pancake
Thank you
parlour.
very much, Philip.
Well,
Thank you
maybe
so much.
take a friend to afternoon tea, Don. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, what about the magnificent whipped butter at those pancake parlours?
Yes.
I just love it.
No.
You know that little bowl you get of it?
Would you like to nick out there to Doncaster with me at midnight? It's open 24 hours. My shout.
What, now, after we finish here?
Why not? Doing things on the spur of the... It's something Bruce...
We seem a bit sus, the two of us, you know, two men sitting in a pancake parlour at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning.
It's something Bruce and I never did. No.
Cameron's at Berwick. Hello, Cameron.
Hi, Cameron, yes.
Hello, Uncle Andy, and hello, Philip.
Yes, Andrew. Well, Andrew, hello, and Cameron, hello.
Hello, Phil.
Andy,
Hello, Ken.
and Philip and me. Yes, I'm still devastated and shattered. But I didn't. I was looking on YouTube. I could see Bertrand's tribute, and I could see the family's tribute. But I couldn't find your tribute, Philip, on YouTube.
The only tribute from me was last night on Remember When I did a piece in honour of Bruce called The Homecoming.
Oh, okay.
I did offer to do it at the Athenaeum, but they had a fairly full program already, Cameron, so I saved it for radio.
That explains why it wasn't on YouTube. Fair enough.
That's the reason. But I was happy to do a piece if they'd requested it, of course.
Now, I just find it a little bit of a joke. You know, with these, I remember about 20 years ago, there was this cricket guy trying to say, "Oh, why don't they have cricket in America and Canada? They don't have it as an because they've got their own culture, they've got their own national pastime. Canada has their lacrosse, their ice hockey and their hockey, and they play baseball, the American NFL, and they have basketball. America has basketball, baseball, and the NFL, and they've got other sports. New Zealand have their rugby, and they have the cricket in the summer, you know, and India is very fond of cricket, and of course, it all depends on the culture and the...
Yeah, and of course China with their soccer, why would they be at all interested in Aussie rules football?
I have no idea, Phil. You know.
But they keep on pushing it. Every few years we get these big campaigns, don't we, Cam, of somebody from the AFL saying, come on, it's time we broke China, a new market here. And all.
It won't happen.
Yeah, look, they've got their national pastimes. I know cricket is played in America and Canada, but it's not. It's never going to be
on a very small time basis.
It's very small time. It'll never be a big time sport. I can never see it, you know, coming in. And the same with Aussie rules. That might be played by, you know, small groups in America here and there, or maybe you know. They've got small community groups that might pick it up, you know.
I think there are Aussie rules games I know in Canada do go on. I think in the
they're exhibition games.
Yeah, and also there's some sort of regular team of expat Aussies in New York, I believe.
Yeah, maybe.
And they form a team every now and again. And they play a few games, but no, as an overall rule, I really just can't see it making the grade in the Big Apple, you know.
Yeah, good point you make. By tradition, Bruce and I always close the Anzac Day show with the voice of the Australian flag, and that will be around 11:45 tonight. On Friday night, it was rather day of mixed emotions. We had Bruce's farewell at the Athenaeum, and then I was obliged to go to a 50th birthday party in Whittlesea. I'm glad I did, because my former breeder, Tony Wildman, the breeder of my Weimaraners, not my current retrievers, he turned 50 and had a big do at Mick's Italian restaurant in Whittlesea, which I highly recommend. The pasta there was excellent, so too are the pizzas, and there was really good atmosphere there at Mick's Italian in Whittlesea.
Sounds good.
One of Trisha's friends actually drove me up on the night.
Isn't Whittlesea a lovely spot too?
I love it, just up there beyond Eden Park.
That's right.
And now, speaking of Italian restaurants, I've just been paid a great honour by Giovanni from the Olive Jar in Rathdown Street, Carlton, which was, of course, formerly, as you'd know,
La Contadina.
La Contadina.
Beautiful
and,
food. My goodness, they had great pasta.
Giovanni Mico has paid me the ultimate compliment,
yes,
I believe.
May I read this to you, Phil? I don't know if you know about it. Hi, Phil. This is on Phil's phone, which I have purloined here. Hope all is well. We decided with my family to name 2 dishes, one pasta and one pizza, after you on our daily menu.
Wow.
In respect of our long friendship. Hope it's okay with you. However, in my life, you know what I've ever had named after me? A diuretic. That's all that's ever been named after me.
Well, I suppose you should be flattered.
Yes, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but anyway. However, one of the dishes will be a 4-cheese pizza. 4 cheeses.
Delicious, yes.
Have you had it yourself?
Yeah, I know, it's my favourite pizza, yes.
That's why it's been named after you.
And what's the other?
And I know you'll like it. We'll call next week and have a further chat.
Also, there's a pasta going to be named after me.
He doesn't really go into details about the pasta.
And a chair too, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. No, you're a legend. You're a great friend. It goes on. I'm not going to read all of this.
No, because that's embarrassing. But, you know...
had a Lion Club.
No, it's going to be a pizza, a pasta and a chair. So, is that an honour? And in my life, I've only had 2 things named after me previously. One was a lion cub born at the Melbourne Zoo.
Really?
In the 1960s. And the other was a chair from one of our sponsors in Melbourne tonight called Chair Corner.
Really?
So now I've had a lion cub, a chair, and now a pizza.
You know what I would really love? I don't think it'll happen, and we haven't got that much time tonight, but I would love if someone ever bought a Phil Brady chair from Chair Corner in the 1960s. It would be, I guess.
Yes, I guess so.
If anyone still has one at home, please, 96900 693. You will make my day.
Okay.
96900 693 if you've got a Phil chair.
It's 23 to midnight. Here's our buddy, Jim Schembri, who's been to the movies. Hi, Jim.
G'day, guys. How are you?
What have you seen, Jim?
Well, listen, mate, I was going to call this tomorrow night, but, Phil, you mentioned the film I was going to call in about, or a character upon whose life this film based on a lady called Jenkins. You mentioned her.
Oh, Florence Jenkins. Yes, and didn't she pay to have her own concert at Carnegie Hall? And didn't she sing out of? Didn't she sing out of tune?
She sang out of tune, she sang out of rhythm, she sang pretty much out of her mind, because she had absolutely no idea how monumentally talentless she was. The only talent, it appears, was talent of self-delusion. And this film, directed by Stephen Frears, the veteran British film director, has put Meryl Streep in what I've got to say is one of her best, funniest and most immersive character roles of her career. I'd be very surprised if this thing doesn't actually finally do it for her and pick up an Academy Award. This woman's life, guys, is a very interesting reflection on the world we live in today. We somehow thought with reality TV and all these talent shows that the idea of someone completely talentless becoming famous was something that was somehow particular to our era. Well, it turns out that this is not the case. And this woman was basically obsessed with the idea that she had singing talent. And she was surrounded, guys, the way that sometimes drug addicts are surrounded by enablers. This woman was also similarly surrounded by enablers. Yes, people who never actually stood up to her and said, "Woman, you can't sing."
But Jim,
it's a really funny movie.
No, but Jim, surely the critics destroyed her.
Sorry, say again?
Surely the critics destroyed her.
There was an awakening, but somehow one gets the sense that she was so inoculated from criticism that she still went to her great thinking that she had talent. It's a remarkable story. I strongly recommend it, guys. Like I said, I was going to call it in tomorrow night, but Phil, you happened to mention it tonight, and I thought I've got to just call in, let you guys know it is a terrific movie. Again, directed by Stephen Frears, the guy who gave us The Queen a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't wait to buy the CD and listen to her voice. Do they actually use her voice at all in the movie?
You know what? I'm not sure about that. I think there's been, Meryl Streep actually puts in some vocal work in this movie, and it is atrocious. One of the interesting things is to see the reaction of the young man who's hired above many other people to be her piano accompanist. And when he gets the job, he actually thinks he's getting a job with a virtuoso. Then he actually hears her singing, and he sees all of the winking and all of the secret smiling that takes place behind her back, which basically supports this delusion that she's talented.
Well, I imagine, Jim, if she was wealthy, she could afford to bankroll all those concerts, and it sounds like she was a rather pathetic creature.
Yes.
Andrew?
A victim of vanity, around vanity, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks,
Something
Jim.
you would never be, Phil, I know.
I have no reason to be. Thank you, Jim. It sounds hilarious.
Hey, boys, just before we go on, I just wanted to acknowledge tonight the very sad passing today of Billy Paul.
Oh, really?
Responsible for one of the all-time great love songs, this song. Me and Miss... Oh, sorry, I'm doing your intro. Andrew, this is your job.
No, go for it.
Me and Mrs. Jones from 1972. This song is just one of the greats. Sadly, we lost Billy Paul today.
How old was he?
Don't crash the vocal. Should have learnt that at Magic, Andrew. No wonder you only do him mid-dawn.
I think he was, would you agree, Ken, something of a one-hit wonder?
He was, but gee, in his own genre, he had a very successful career. And as somebody once said to me, better to have one absolute phenomenon than a few middly little hits.
Yeah, but if you've only got one hit, you can hardly go on tour, can you? With one song. I mean, I can't perform with Goody Goody, can I? I mean, really, people demand more.
Put it this way. I would pay to see Billy Paul. I wouldn't pay to hear Goody Goody.
In fact, I'm going to call Phil and Goody Goody as the Florence Jenkins of Australia. I would pay to have Phil not perform Goody Goody.
Barry, Paul, Carmen, I'm really sorry we have run out of time. Ken, do a favour, get their numbers and we'll call them back tomorrow night early because we must break now prior to the voice of the Australian flag. Andrew, as I said, by tradition, we always end up on Remembrance Day and Anzac Day with the voice of the Australian flag.
It's a wonderful piece.
And people who inquire about it, I understand that it is available from Anzac House or RSL House in Collins Streets.
I am the national flag of the Commonwealth of Australia. I belong to you and every Australian equally and freely. I was conceived before the dawn of the century. Designed by Ivor Evans, I was chosen over and above some 32,000 contenders. Although I was never an orphan, I was adopted on that sparkling spring day, the 3rd of September 1901, when I flew above the exhibition building in Melbourne. I was hailed and celebrated by people standing on the threshold of nationhood. They took me to their hearts. In that official ceremony, in the presence of our first Prime Minister, I became the chief symbol of a new nation, embracing the ideals of self-determination, national sovereignty, and personal freedom under God. I have been hoisted aloft over many buildings, from humble homes to the Houses of Parliament. I have listened to every Prime Minister declare his allegiance to me, to our monarch, and to our Constitution. I have witnessed the pledge of each one to protect and defend those freedoms we all cherish, even above life itself. I am carried with pride in ceremonies and processions. I have draped the caskets of your national heroes, carried to their last resting place. The caskets of kings and queens, eminent statesmen, generals, admirals, humble privates, and the unknown soldier. Wherever free men gather, wherever there is justice, faith, hope, charity, and truth, there too am I. At the tender age of 14 years, I received my baptism of fire in World War I. I flew proudly in those early days as we heard the call to do battle alongside those of our own kin. I was carried up the steep hills of Gallipoli, and I was there with the men in the trenches. I watched Simpson bring out the wounded on his doughy little donkey. I breathed the dust of the deserts and rode in glory with the Light Horse Brigade. I saw our finest sons fall and lie still. In death, they had given their last full measure of devotion. The war was over for them forever, but I kept my lonely vigil over their graves and stayed to watch the flowers grow, amid the crosses, row upon row, in Flanders fields. Oh, young Australia, I was there with your fathers whom I longed to comfort. Look at me again, lest you forget. You know me by my distinctive emblems. The Union Jack is the tie that binds us to your ancestors and rich heritage down through the centuries. The upright red cross on a white field is the cross of St. George, patron saint of England. This cross was there when King John set his royal seal on Magna Carta in 1215. And it was there when Simon de Montfort brought together the very first Parliament in 1265, making England truly the mother of parliaments. I proudly wear two other crosses. The white diagonal cross on a blue field is the cross of St. Andrew, patron saint of Scotland. The red diagonal cross on a white field is the cross of St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland. These three crosses, which perhaps you scarcely understand, unite our heritage in this wonderful land and forge our future in an inseparable bond. The blazing Southern Cross marks our way ahead, while the seven-pointed Federation Star joins our states and territories in a single yet united Commonwealth. All this set in a field of blue. The blue of our southern skies and of the endless ocean washing our golden sandy beaches and coral shores. We are the heirs to a culture rich and diverse. We are the offspring child of a great empire. We have a glorious tomorrow. We are one, lest you forget. I have been to many places. I have seen many things. With our explorers, I crossed the icy wastes of Antarctica and climbed the heights of Mount Everest. I look down with pride on our mighty sportsmen and women as they win honors for their country all over the world. at every official or memorable event in this land, I hold the position of honor. Following World War I, we frolicked in our newfound liberty, growth, prosperity, increase, and our common wealth. But far to the north, in Russia, a new tyranny spewed forth, slaughtering the rich and regal, the lowly and humble, usurping the sovereignty of nations, not of its own. We watched from afar, protected by the border of oceans. Then came 1939, and once again, we heard the beat of the warmongers' drums. Again, my heart went out to our brave soldiers, sailors, and airmen. I was there with them, in the Middle East, in New Guinea, Malaya, Borneo, and many other places. I was trodden in the mud, red with the blood of those brave young Australians so ruthlessly murdered in prisoner of war camps, lest you forget. Finally, in 45, peace at last, so we thought. With just a few short years' rest, I was again carried into battle, caught up in further hostilities by those promoting war. I watched and praised the endurance and spirit of our volunteers in Korea. I too felt the sufferings of our brave sons and daughters in the forces in Vietnam, lest you forget. I am well known and remembered in many places. I am flown every day in the school at Villers-Bretonneux in France, where grateful children and teachers do not forget their debt to Australian soldiers. I am many things to many people. To some, I am yesterday, today, and tomorrow, an inseparable link in the chain that binds men to God and country. And because I am on the side of God through our great heritage, there are the godless who seek to destroy me and replace those 3 Christian crosses with plants or animals. But they dare not. Why? Because today I am everywhere, in the homes of the humble and the mansions of millionaires. I am in the cities, the suburbs, and in country towns. From coast to coast, right across this great nation, I am raised with pride and dignity. Oh, my people, you have given so much to be Australian, and I am proud that we are one, bonded through trial and triumph. Look at me, and remember our heritage, and realize our great future.
Oh, Andrew, you dance superbly, but, oh, gee, I wish you'd let me lead. But, you know, you're so good at the waltz.
Well, it was the trouble of going to an all-boys school and doing dancing classes with Simon. He was my partner.
I know, the same thing happened to me going to Xavier, and we do Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, and all the girls would be blokes you were kicking the footy with at school, you know, wearing lipstick and a blonde wig.
It's interesting. Intriguing thought. I wish there were photos.
But I survived this, didn't I, somehow?
Right. Although you've left the lipstick and the blonde wig on, I noticed tonight. But that's fine, Phil. It's all a part of the lovely world.
Only because we're streaming. That's for my fans around the world. After the midnight news, our buddy Jordan Tumridge will read the news, and then it's Luke Bono from Sydney. Thank you very much, Ken. A good effort tonight, particularly with Sahara Song. You mixed that superbly.
It was a treat for ears, wasn't it? Thank you, Phil. Hope we do it again soon.
I look forward to that occasion. Simon back with us tomorrow night, reporting on Josh Groban, or what do you...
Rosh Jogan.
It sounds like an Indian dish, doesn't it?
I think it is.
Okay, take care, Andy. Till next time, which hopefully will be soon again. And in memory of Bruce, to the sick, the sad, the lonely, the grieving, and the homeless, you're always in our hearts, always in our prayers.